in the room and everyone on the live stream. My name is Jessie Reyez. How you doing? Welcome to Grammy U Masterclass presented by Mastercard. Today we have the honor of chatting with the legendary artist, creator, producer, singer, songwriter Jacob Collier. In today's masterclass, we're going to learn about the art of collaboration and the nuances of creating with other artists and songwriters. And we'll also walk you through how Jacob and I make music and our process behind our song, Count the People. So a little bit about Jacob and his legendary track record. He got started with YouTube covers. He is a 5-time Grammy Award winner, current Grammy nominee, and has worked with artists like SZA, Kehlani, Hans Zimmer, T-Pain, and my motherfucking self. So with that note, please make some noise for the legendary Jacob Collier. Hola.
What's up? How you doing? Wagwan. Oh, good to see you. Good to see you. How's life? Are you good? Yeah, this is very exciting. It's so nice to be here. I'm gonna have a seat. Oh,
Look at you matching with the,
I
with
know,
the chairs.
I just realized that. My
That's
Crocs matching
nice.
with the
Color
thing.
coordinated.
Hey.
And the rug.
Yeah. What
Damn, I didn't get the memo.
What can I say?
So Jacob, how's your day?
My day's good. I'm jet lagged because I flew from London, which is exactly the same as you.
We are a little jet lagged.
We both flew from London yesterday.
We did. I wish we were on the same flight.
I know, that would have been super fun.
But it's cool. We're here today.
I had two seats to myself, and I made a fort on the plane.
Let's go.
Like, I took both blankets and was like,
Come through,
and then
fort.
I got told off. I was like, they were like, you can't make a fort.
Creative.
So I undid the fort.
Lit. Jacob, many people have discovered your music through Tiny Desk and self-collaborations where you played or sang multiple parts by yourself. How do you choose which songs to arrange, like Meet the Flintstones?
Oh yeah, that one's a fun one. I think if you like a song and it has a strength within its form and it can survive being like completely destroyed, that's something that I enjoy as a baseline, especially when I was starting out. Because when I was 16, 17, 18, I was very obsessed and excited by the idea of taking something that exists, like a song, like a Stevie Wonder song or a Michael Jackson tune or old jazz song, and thinking, how can I reshape this or recombine the elements of this in a totally crazy way, especially like harmonically. And I've always been interested in, I guess, stretching all the rules. And I'm a firm believer that every rule in music is completely arbitrary. And you can just do whatever you want all the time. And so I think I felt yes. I felt quite safe interacting with these legendary songs because I could push against them. I could like stretch them or kick them or squeeze them or whatever, and they would survive. And so, like a song like Meet the Flintstones, this is super simple and repetitive, but that gave me such a clarity, and I was able to kind of throw a lot of paint at that, and it was cool. So I think when it comes to what songs to choose, you have to love the song enough to want to tell the story in a new way, and the song needs to have a really strong essence of its own that can survive.
So it doesn't get diluted in the new vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
As you continue to release music, you work with other artists on many of your tracks instead of only solo. How do you decide who you want to work with, and how do you determine which of your songs to bring on a collaborator for?
It's a great question.
Thank you. I wrote it.
Thanks for asking it. Yeah. Well, I started my whole journey making music alone, and I have a really special room in London. Have you guys been to London? Who's been to London here? Wow,
Yes.
48%. Yeah, well traveled. It's a long way away, but yeah, you guys should come visit me at some point. I've got this little room in London, and it's in my original family home. So, like the house I was basically born into. And I learned to walk in this room. It's like a super special little room. And back in the day, it was just a piano and a guitar and one SM58. You guys know this mic? It's one of the, of course. Yeah, so one of the best mics is just super simple. And I spent so many years just creating, just kind of for the sake of creating in this room. And I would just throw a bunch of paint and see what happened. And I remember I kind of learned music from this this little Casio keyboard. I can't remember the make of it. Maybe it's a C, definitely C, CK11 or something. But anyway, you know these keyboards where there's like 100 rhythms and 200 sounds, and you just go through them all. It's like bossa nova, polka, rock and roll, waltz, you know, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. And then you can play like trombones and violas and all these things that I'd never really heard before. So that experience was very inspiring for me, and no one ever told me I couldn't do it all on my own, because I never conceived of music as being like, oh, it has to be a big group of people. I sort of thought, well, if I understand the elements, then perhaps I can combine them in ways that make sense to me. And that was an interesting thing and a fun activity, and I think that at that age it was a really, really crucial part of my learning, because it's the part of the learning where you're figuring out what you're drawn to, and ultimately, like, I think what you like, what you like is like the kind of the most important question you can ever ask, because it guides everything, you know. It's like, oh, I'm drawn to this, or I feel this, and you don't need to know why. And also, liking something takes zero effort. It's just instantaneous. And I think that's where a lot of the wisdom comes from, is just really knowing that, and also being open to that changing. But when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, I was spending a lot of time in this room with my SM58, just trying to do as much as I could to stretch sound. And I started by singing, 2, 3-part harmonies and 4, 5, 6-part harmonies in the end. And then, I remember the moment I first like reversed a sound. It's such a crazy thing. You say a word, and then it's like, and you can imagine it, but hearing it and feeling it with your own fingers and hands, there's something about it that's so majestic in the process. It's like, wow, I've really just like created this thing that's alive, and you can follow it. So all this to say, this is a slight diversion, but by the time I was 18, 19, I really wanted to make an album of my own that represented this learning in this room. So it was just an album that felt like it was accurate to my process and where I was at. And I wanted to do it by myself, without a producer, and without any collaborators at all. Not because I was averse to humans, but just because I really wanted to set myself the challenge. What if I play every instrument? What if I mix the album? What if I write the songs? And it felt important. It felt important to do that. So I did that. And the album's called In My Room. And that came out in 2016. And thank you for the whoop. And I then, then that album was nominated for 2 Grammys since we're here. And that was a huge moment of disbelief for me, because, I never really considered myself as one of those people who gets a Grammy. Think, I'm just Jacob, in London, just making stuff I really like. And it was a real thrill and a massive honor, and quite thought-provoking too, because, in some ways, a bit like, chords or rhythms or stuff. It's like the Grammys is also made up, But it's a fun thing to dream through, and it's a huge honor to be included in this group of people, which is quite a select group of people who bring so many kind of important communications around music to life. So I was so thrilled and so utterly blown away. And I went to the Grammys in 2017, and I won both, and it was just this insane moment, unbelievable moment. And I toured the world around that time for a couple of years with a one-man show. So it was like me and a bunch of instruments in a circle, which was, again, really challenging. And you think, almost needless, you could say. But I really, really wanted to take that room on the road, the experience of the room on the road, and the spirit of it. And to think, I'm in Los Angeles, but I've got my room here, or I'm in Manila, and I've got my room here, or I'm in Sydney, and I've got my room here, And that feeling was such an important thing for me to chase. And the man who actually built and designed the one-man show, he's actually over there. His name is Ben Bloomberg. He's at the sound desk. Legend. But we toured for 3 years, and by the end of the tour, I was so ravenous for connection and communication and collaboration. I'd done so much by myself, and it was like, man, who are my favorite musicians on the planet who are alive right now? And I made a big list, and you were on that list.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. And I just thought, well, what if I just ask everyone, would you be down? So you just have to start there, So the first musicians I got on board were the Metropole Orchestra, an orchestra from Holland, a very, very legendary orchestra in the space between sort of pop and jazz and world music and all sorts of things. They're just an amazing intersection. And so they agreed to be part of the first portion of this project. I dreamed up a massive project, basically. So a quadruple album called Jessie. And it started as another whoop. I really appreciate that. It started as one album, like one huge fat album, and then I thought, it doesn't have enough clarity. I want to put some dividers in to make it clear. So then it became 2 albums, like a double. Like first one more acoustic, second one more electronic. I thought, okay, we can roll with this for a bit. And then about a week later, I thought, this is just not big enough. I need 3. I need 3 albums, because with 3, you can tell, like, there's 3 parts of the triangle of the story. There's the sort of orchestral, vast acoustic sounds. There's the more gentle folk-based acoustic sounds, and then there's like digital electronic sounds, and like that's the whole picture, right? And I've always loved the idea there's like a system that everything fits in, but it wasn't big enough still. So I made it 4. And I made it 4 without knowing what the 4th was going to be about, really. But I just sort of thought, I'll leave it there to see what happens. And I'm really glad that I did, because, and I'll get to this a bit later on, but the collaboration sort of exploded out of the artist and into the audience. But essentially, I made this big list, and it was super, you could say unrealistic, but a lot of my favorite ideas are unrealistic, or you could say unreasonable. And so, yeah, I set about doing this massive collaborative project, and it's got me to a creative place that I never really imagined being in just yet. But it's thrilling.
That's
and I'm
beautiful.
so glad you were on that. You're on volume 3.
I'm so happy we were able to make it happen.
Because when we hung out and did that song, that was like when I sat in London and conceived of how it might feel to do this. That was what I dreamed of it feeling like that. Because you were pacing with this notepad, and I was like pacing with this musical idea, and we cooked up this wacko storm, And also the idea I brought to you was super left field, and you were like, I remember you were like, it's a movie, man. It's a movie, man.
Yeah. Nice. That
and
sounds
I was like,
me.
It's just cool that you're on board,
Yeah, always down. Why not? I love unrealistic ideas.
But
They're my favorite.
That why not thing, that's like the whole thing.
Yep.
If you can, as an artist, if you can say, well, why not? That's a big part of the problem solved, because most people are like, well, I don't know about that.
Too scared.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
People, But if I'd never been willing to say why not, I would never have done anything. Because,
Same.
you know what I mean? And I think you're the same way. It's the
I
same.
agree, 100%. You have to make sure that the little voice in your head is on your side. Let other people tell you no. If you have an idea you really want to shoot for, the world is rough enough. The voice in your head shouldn't be against you. So if there's something you want to try, why the fuck not?
That's it.
I love.
That's
it.
One question I have for you off the back of that is, have there been times in your career where you've been like, I want to do this, and people have been like, you can't do that, or that's not reasonable, or people haven't done that before, or if you can do it, but people won't like it, and how do you deal with that feeling?
You mentioned something earlier that just really resonated, and it's being in touch with your intuition. But you were talking about what you like and how to find your taste and how to find almost a palette that you want to pull from to create. But I think it's really important to nurture that connection with yourself and your intuition, because everything in life is about balance. There's one thing to be so unrealistic and be down to like shoot for the stars, which is great, but due to the nature of the industry that we're in, you also have to be pragmatic just a little bit, just apply a little bit to it, depending on what you want to be, Like if you're trying to be a working musician and exist in this capitalistic ass society, you have to apply a little bit of that pragmaticness, So what I've been able to do is just nurture the connection that I have with my own intuition enough so that when I bring an unrealistic idea out of my mind into the world, and I'm lucky enough to work with a great team that I trust, and get their feedback. And if someone's like, just that's a little closer to the moon than it is Earth, I know that I can listen to myself and be like, well, is that just fear? Is that someone else's projected fear? Or is that something that's realistic that I can apply and then almost like adjust my expectations? But all of that is kind of futile unless I have a good relationship with my own intuition. And there's things that you can do to nurture it. You just like get to know yourself, listen to yourself more, flip a coin, which is it's such a great tool that I found last year, because sometimes when you're stuck in indecision, you get paralyzed and time's gonna pass you by anyway, So you might as well just fail faster. And sometimes failing faster is eliminating that little space that you're like, that you're stutter stepping. But when you leave it up to a coin, what's great is that if you're like, all right, if it goes heads, I'll go this way. If it goes tails, I'll go that way. And you're unsure, you're not fucking unsure. Your gut knows what you want, but that little connection is just a little bit clouded. As soon as that heads pops up, the first emotion you feel, if you're happy that the heads popped up, then you know you want to go with your intuition. If you're sad, then you know that you're against it. But that's how you train yourself more into understanding what it is that your gut's trying to tell you. But I think intuition, like you mentioned, is something that's imperative, not just in how you want to create and what you want to create, but also how you want to move about, or how you want to move in this business and in this industry, you know, in every way, even in life.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
As Quincy Jones often says, it's like make a life, not a living. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Because you can get paralyzed by the idea of, God, I've got to fit into this structure that exists.
Yeah. It's so,
But
it's
all the best music, it's just it flows
free.
from your life.
Yes.
Flows from your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know you've been getting a lot of buzz on socials for collaborating with your actual audience at concerts, with the well-traveled audience we have here today.
Yeah.
What is that process like, and how did it start?
So, this is my current obsession, the audience choir, and
I love it. It's so sick.
oh, thank you. It's really a surprising thing, and also totally inevitable and sense-making thing. But first of all, everyone always knows more than they think they know, and this is like a baseline on which you can build a lot of things. If you assume people don't know things, then it's harder to collaborate with them. But if you assume that someone's gonna, if you assume that, if this is the rug, at the end of the rug, I don't know if you can see, there's this rug here. But if I go to the edge of the rug, and I do that, but I expect there to be solid ground, then I will probably find solid ground. And if I don't know if I'm going to find the ground, then that might be more scary. So a lot of it's just about confidence and certainty. But yeah, there was one show I did in San Francisco, and in 2019, was there a ripple of appreciation there? Anyone from San Francisco? Really? Hey, great, the Bat Gang. So I stepped forward at the end of this show, and I like to leave a space at the end of my show for something to happen. And I'm very fed by the idea that something could happen. And it could be anything. And the audience for a while had been sort of building up its own confidence, because a lot of my audience happened to be very musical people, especially back in 2019. They were singing a bunch of stuff, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just get you to sing this note, you sing this note, you sing this note, and they sang this chord, and it was very exciting. I love chords anyway. But then I thought, well, what would happen if you went up? And so I just pointed and went up, and they went, ah, and I thought, this is crazy, you know. This is crazy. But I didn't really, I didn't quite see the potential for what it could become until about the last 3 months. The last 3 months, it's kind of completely taken on its own thing. But essentially, it's intuitive, again, intuitive triadic movement. Do you guys know about triads? Yeah, triads are great, man. Triads are three-part chords. This is killing. And you can say very, very sort of foundational in how music is and comes about and moves around. But yeah, essentially the process is, you know, to go to the front of the stage and to get the audience to sing, and then to move the notes one by one and create this progression of chords, this journey. And actually, I've been recording every audience of the whole world tour last year, 150,000 voices, crazy. And I'm going to put them all on the record on Volume 4.
Love that.
And that's a crazy feeling. That's a crazy feeling. And by the end of the tour, I got kind of advanced with it. But the funny thing about it is, you still only have 2 minutes to train them. At the end, it's like you can't sit and explain. You can't say, okay, guys, so I'm going to point at you, and when I do that, you've got to get. It's not a word is spoken. That's the thing. So it has to be so inevitable what's about to happen that it just happens. But again, there's so many life lessons in that, you know, and the feeling of directing a room of strangers, 2,000 strangers, singing this harmony. It's truly moving. Like, it's a crazy feeling. But do you guys want to give it a try? You want to just sing it? Okay. So this is one of my most favorite things ever. Let me just take off my shoes. Have a sip of water. So
it's a sport. It's almost like it's a sport.
It's a
just
sport.
to get ready.
There are all manner of ways to get started, but the best one's just ooh, and you guys up there too. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, ooh. Yeah. Beautiful. Nice. There's a high note over there. So, thank you. So that's the basic principle is that. I'll show you one other fun thing which is fun to do with audiences, and it goes like this. You ready? Ooh. Okay, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, I'm good. Ha! Fair enough. Hey. Nice. That's superb. Superb. So there's so much you can do in that world, but it has to be, the thing I love about it is it has to inherently be so simple. And the moment you try to do something super clever, it's like, you know? so it's, for me, it's a very good training in just being like, what is the clearest possible gesture I can make to make sure it's like, because if I go, it's just, you have
It's
to
like
be
a
like,
weak handshake.
yeah, it's like a weak handshake, exactly. You have to be like, and you know it. It can't be a question. If I go, then it's going to be like, you know? But it's the same way, it's same with pitch. It's like if I go, you know, you kind of have to know the distance. But there's something about, so the group psychology of it that it keeps me awake at night because it's so beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Especially to be on this end of it. You guys sound amazing, and watching it in live is just so beautiful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
There's something to be said about like when you can be as present as possible in life. And I don't know about you, but like anytime someone's talking about music industry, it almost sounds like an oxymoron because it's like saying holy money.
Kind of, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something so holy, and then obviously if you're lucky enough, you're able to be a working musician and live off of your art, but you almost, there's sacrifices that have to be made because all of a sudden there's interviews and strategy and marketing and all these things that you have to apply. But there are certain things that you're able to like salvage when it comes to what's sacred.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I've found that I've been able to
Yeah.
salvage certain things that is sacred.
Well, one thing I've thought, I completely agree, but one thing I've thought, this has taught me so many things. Obviously, musically, there's an amount it teaches me, but I think about other things in my life. I think, how would I do this if this was the audience choir? And that doesn't mean like, how would I get a group of people to do it? It's like, what's the feeling of the audience choir? It was total presence, unwavering concentration, no effort. I'm not trying. I'm not being like, really try. I'm not. It's just, it has to be inevitable. It has to do itself because I'm not singing or speaking. And to enable someone to do something, they have to feel like it's effortless. And so, say for example, building a team. It's like, how do I build a campaign like it's the audience choir? And not like crowdsource everything, but like, how do I, as a leader, which is, as an artist, you are essentially a leader of sorts, how do I lead in a way where people feel like that their voice is important in a group of voices for a common goal of connection? I mean, harmony essentially is, in music, harmony is just the relationship between things. That's all it really is. And you could say melody is your voice, and rhythm is your body, in a very, very simple form. And those being the three massive elements, the sort of three massive pillars of music. I mean, harmony is like my ultimate crush from like day one, but the audience choir harmony stuff is crazy because it's not just music, it's the whole feeling of it, the whole idea of it is so exciting to me. A good friend of mine, his name is Steve Vai, once said something to me that's really stayed with me. And because I was talking about a part of my life, I encountered a problem I didn't know how to move forward. Like you were talking about like the indecision thing. It's like, this seems opaque. How do I move forward? And you can transpose, as you use the word transpose loosely, you can transpose the feeling of knowing that you have in one aspect of your life, you can transpose it onto something in your life that you don't know or are not so certain about. And so I was explaining the situation, and I was like, I don't know, I could do this or this, there's so many options, whatever. And he said, if I play a chord to you like this, it's like you would know exactly what to do to resolve that. Because for me, I know it. Yes, of course. You know. And so he was kind of like, think about every problem as an unresolved chord, and you'll be fine. You know, because what happens is, it's not that you know everything about what's going to happen, but it's like you activate a deep intuition, and it's the voice that already knows the answer. And it's exactly what you were saying about tuning into that. It's like, if you just remove the rest of it, which a lot of that's fear and a lot of that is doubt. And
which is useless, a
yeah,
useless emotion.
It is. And if you just remove that, then normally there's a way. And I can think of scenarios where things have seemed so impossible. Whether it's, how do I build a musical instrument where I can sing a note and play 10 notes and you hear all those notes be sung by my voice in real time. How do you do that? I don't know how to do that. So I think, this seems opaque. How am I going to do it? And then when you believe that it could happen, you think, actually, I'm sure there'll be a way. You trust it. I got a Facebook message from Ben, and Ben said, hey, I'm a PhD student at MIT in Boston, and I like to build stuff. And I've worked with a few people and that I really respected, and if I ever want to build something, then I could let him know. And I was so thrilled because it was almost like the universe does transpire to help
Absolutely.
you. It does. So if you think, I don't know how to do this, it might be 2 years later, it might be 2 days later, it might be 2 minutes later, or it might be at this exact moment. But normally there's something that just says, hey, pay attention, something's going on to help you. And so the solution to such problems doesn't always have to come from your own mind or your own self. But I think when you open it up to others, again, collaboration. It's like when you're willing to say, maybe the best way for me to play this song is through others in some way. And that's how a producer thinks too, What kind of drummer do I want to play on my song? Is it a drummer with liquid? Is it a drummer with solid? Is it a drummer with air? Is it a drummer with ground? All these different ways of playing the drums. And you think, well, I need this to be in my song. And so, kind of going back to your original question, I think the thing that I've fallen in love with across the Jessie project has been transferring a very self kind of, what's the word? Kind of self-sufficient creative process, which, and the core skills of that are still intact, but I just get so much more of a kick out of saying, hey, what about your voice doing that, rather than my voice? Because I used to layer 100 of my own voice on top of itself, and I love that sound, I love it. But it's nowhere near as special as a room of people. And so the simplest and most clearly you can be the most exquisite and beautiful with that language, for me, is that's so sound, and not just musically, as I was saying, it's like in all sorts of areas of your life. Because this feeling is one of intuition and humor and not holding on to stuff. I'm not trying to control, it's just like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen if, it's like, it's reaching into your peripheral vision and just knowing there'll be something there, there'll be something here, there, And that's a lovely feeling in music, to find that. So I'm increasingly interested in that feeling and inspired by it, and I think that in the Jessie project, I'm also finding that I love that too.
I love that. You spoke about when you're talking about who it is. Well, first off, you said something that I thought was beautiful when you kind of open up and leave room for the universe to conspire for your greater good and for helping you out. You will leave room for synchronicity to show itself.
Yeah.
And the more in touch you are with your intuition, it's almost like the more aware you are of those little signals in life and those moments where you're like, oh, I was thinking of this person and they hit me.
Yeah.
We're supposed to link up right now.
Exactly.
But you spoke about when you're debating what kind of drummer you want to work with and all those things, or different things that you consider in the musician. So how do you go about collaborating with people who have had different musical experience than you might have, or may have studied theory the way you've studied, or technical aspects of songwriting? And how is the musical conversation and writing process different with someone that has a different, just different background than you do?
Yeah. Well, the less unison about the way someone's learned music to me, the more interesting in some ways I find it. Because if someone's listened to all the same music as me and has learned the same lessons as me in music and comes to the table, then it's like, great, let's just, great,
Yeah.
But if there's someone, I'm thinking of someone like Hamid El Kasri, who's a Moroccan Gnawa musician. He's from Casablanca. Or Umar Sangare, who's an astounding, do you know Umar Sangare?
Put me on.
Oh, I think you'd love it, yeah. She's just like the absolute master musician of Mali, and I've collaborated with both of them, one on volume 1 and one on volume 2, and neither spoke a word of English. And so with that, it's such a different process from working with someone like T-Pain,
Yeah.
Because it's like, or Ty Dolla $ign, because these guys you can be like, hey man, I kind of want you to do this thing, or I'm seeing this, But with Umu, I can't describe that, so I have to show it by my materials.
Yep.
And so I remember I made this groove for Umu. It was kind of a Gnawa groove. Are you familiar with Gnawa? Anyone familiar with Gnawa music? Oh, I wish I was in your shoes and could now step into discovering it. It's such a beautiful kind of music. It's like street music from Morocco, ancient street music, and there's normally like a malem or a master musician who plays the gumbri, which is like a bass guitar with gut strings, like, and then you have these castanets called karakebs, which go, but it's a very groovy pattern. It's not techno, like, or quantized, you could say. It's really fluid. It's like how you played the guiro on the tiny desk.
Nice.
Yeah. You know
Thank
what I mean?
you.
Wonky.
My little blue ribbon, blue ribbon beer can.
That was great. But you know the pocket because it's in your culture,
Yes.
But the Gnawa pocket is like, it's beautiful. And so Umu had collaborated before with Hamid, who I'd worked with previously. So I made this Gnawa groove for Umu, and it's quite fast, like. And I made this beat, and she came into my little room in London, like this tiny room. She has such a massive energy. It's almost like she wasn't going to fit, but she did fit. And she listened. She thought, it's cool. I kind of started playing with some stuff and whatever. And I could just sense it's like she's not connecting with this fully. So what can I do? And so she was riffing some stuff, and then I took a couple of things that she'd riffed, and I kind of quickly amassed like a vocal world. Like, and then I copied some of the tracks that she was singing over the top, because she was doing like, this kind of just so great. And so I copied that and double tracked it, and then I think she went to the bathroom, and then she came back and I played it, and she was like, that I can get behind. And but again, it's like you can't plan what someone likes.
Yep.
They bring what they like into the room, and it's always fresh. And what you like is always now. It's not what you expect someone to like is always different, you know. And
it's a beautiful moment when you hit that synergy.
Oh, it's wonderful.
When you feel it resonate, because you're used to it by yourself. I mean, because I'm so used to being in my room with my guitar and just writing by myself often, or if I'm opening up a Dropbox folder. But the feeling of being like idea 1, cool, idea 2, cool, idea 3, cool, and then whatever, idea 5, all of a sudden, everything lines up and it resonates.
It's really special.
But having that with someone else in the room where you both resonate at the same time and both your hairs stand up and you're like, oh, this is the one that we got to spend time on.
Oh, yeah. And
beautiful.
Especially when there's no common language in the room. It's a whole other level, because you've been kind of being like, thank you, yes, maybe bigger, you know,
there's
stuff
no,
like this.
it's nice because there's no room for makeup. There's no room for like
you can't
social
put any
pleasantries and politeness.
Exactly,
no room for that shit.
But when that connection happens, it's crazy, because it's the smiles, you know, because it's such a massive language. I was collaborating yesterday, day before yesterday was a flight, with a purely Spanish-speaking group of people. And again, it was a lot of, you know, you know. But the moment we got something
different Spanish language.
Yeah. I was just like, you have to be very gestural. It's a bit like the audience choir, actually. It's like, maybe it's like, you know. But the moment it works, we all just smile. It's like, oh, we got it, yeah.
It's universal.
And then suddenly, like, it activates all this amazing human communication styles. That it's just so meaningful and beautiful. And I just remember with Umu, she stood up. It was like, yeah, I'm here, I'm in the music. And when she stood up, it was like, wow, you know, this radiance coming off this woman. And then she had this verse, and it came out, and it happened. And yeah, it's a profound thing. But I've relished just the difference in people. You know, writing for 60 orchestral musicians, you know, decrescendos and accents and sforzandos and stuff, versus, you know, Ty Dolla $ign, who had to change his autotune into a half key that didn't exist for the song. I did this song called All I Need with Ty Dolla $ign and Mahalia, who's from UK. And the first chorus goes, all I need, stop singing in the starlight, all I need, and the second chorus goes, all I need. Yeah? So it's like half of a semitone above this. The key doesn't exist on the piano. It only exists in the mind. But to basically tell us, because Ty, I mean, he's one of the most musical people in the world, but his sound is very auto-tuned, and I remember he was trying to sing over the second chorus because it's like this microtonal key, and it was like,
it was catchy,
you know, it just didn't know its key. And so it's just wonderful. You know. I love those. I love those moments.
Yeah, those moments where you play with magic, trying to bring it to the real world. That's nice.
Yeah.
When you're writing for another artist, how do you tailor the song to them while staying true to your own writing process?
I think I started that process about 5 years ago with pretending to be the person and then bringing it to them and showing it to them.
Oh, interesting.
With mixed results.
Got it. So you almost made it prior to entering the room.
Yeah, well, especially at the beginning. So at the beginning, I remember I wrote a song with Tori Kelly called Running Out of Love. It's on volume 3.
It's amazing. I love Tori's
thank
voice.
You. Yeah, Tori is just unbelievable. But that song, that was one of the first songs that I wrote that was just like, let's be in a room and nothing is planned. Let's just see what comes, you know.
Yeah.
And that
you
process.
usually plan in advance.
Well, that was not planned in advance. Otherwise, especially early on in the process, I would normally bring an idea in. I remember I wrote a song with Leanne La Havas. I don't know if you know Leanne. It's so great. And the song's called Feel. And I didn't write the melody. I just wrote this. It was just like a vocal. Oh dear. Just these two chords. Right? And then I mean the 6/8 like and I just made this chorus. That was it. But then Leanne came in and said, "Oh, stay for," and she heard this whole melody. It was like, "Oh, so great." So I've had to find the mixture between things. But I wrote a song I wrote a song for Kiana Lede, who I also adore.
Kiana's also
one
amazing.
of the coolest people ever. And there's a song called In Too Deep. And you know, there's a trick in Logic. Do you guys use Logic at all for production? Hey, anyone use Cubase? Hey now. Anyone use Reaper? Yeah. That's so great. So in Logic, there's a feature called Varispeed. I don't know if you've discovered this yet, but you must dive in. It's super cool. And Varispeed means you can slow down or speed up your song by varying amounts of distance. And so it's funny, what I would actually do is I would slow my song down by like 3 semitones, and I'd sing with my falsetto the notes I was kind of imagining. And then when you speed it back up again, it has this like, it kind of sounds like almost like more feminine as a sound, like the formant's risen. And so I would demo the parts in that way. And yeah, again, it's funny. Sometimes just people just laughed. It's like, oh, that's really funny that you thought I could sing this. You know? Or sometimes it's like, oh no, I don't think that's not the vibe. But it normally helps to give a sense of what I'm going for. And I think just coming from where I've come from as a creative person, I always feel more comfortable in a sense if I've had a go myself at the thing. But I think I've increasingly got more comfortable without planning stuff. It's the same way as being on stage. And so,
interesting.
you know, like when we collaborated, for example, like there was kind of an open space to be filled. And that was super cool. Because if I'd brought you a thing that was like, hey, this is done, then there would have been, we wouldn't have had that opportunity to move. So, and also, I think some artists really relish the being told exactly what to sing and how to sing. And some artists hate that. You know?
I hate it.
So you hate it.
I hate it. I purposely, like when I go into the room as an artist, I'm usually by myself unless I'm with the producer. But if I'm going into the room as a songwriter, I prefer to go in with nothing and just what's ever in the room. Actually, both ways, to be honest. Even when it's myself and the producer, I like feeding off the energy that's in the room. But that being said, I also know that there's legends like yourself and other legends that love going in with structure, but it just doesn't work for me. I've done it, and I like to challenge myself every now and then to walk in just to get out of my comfort zone, because it's not something that comes as natural to me when I have structure or offense or an expectation or saying someone, let's make a song about this. But if I was a producer, I'm sure I'd have a different approach, because I feel like as a producer, maybe you need more of a bed, you know? As a songwriter, because I have the luxury of walking into there being a bed laid, I'm like, perfect. And then just...
Well, you're so good at, I mean, I just love the Instagram stories you do with these songs from a single, like a prompt from, so beautiful.
Thank you.
It's so killing. And it's almost like everyone has to find their own version of that friction, something to push against.
Yes, something that...
If someone says, hey, Jessie, write a song, whatever you want, it's like, oh, how do I even start? You know, like massive blank page. But if someone says, hey,
write a song
about this, then it's like the beam goes, and you can be like, okay, I have a direction. And so I think, there's a different version of that in a live show. Just enough friction to know what's going on, just enough unknown to have no idea what's about to happen.
The balance
or
is
in a
nice.
session, you know, an amount of structure that means I feel like there's a climbing frame, and then an amount of chaos that can ensue. You know,
I love chaos.
I love chaos as well. But I think one of the honors I feel in having worked with so many different kinds of musicians is that juxtaposition between what people like and don't like. Because sometimes if you work with someone and they just say, you know, well, what do I do? Like, you have to tell me what to do. And so then I step into a more of a, okay, well, you could try this and this and this, and try and bounce off them, you know. But then some people walk into the room like yourself, or someone like Remy Wolf is another example of this. Like, Remy you get 20 minutes of beam, and it's genius stuff. And then she doesn't want to touch it ever again. You know? It's like, that's the end. I finished. New thing, you know. And I love her for that. I love the instantaneousness of it has to be now. I'm only here, you know. And that's a beautiful process to be in. But I've enjoyed scaling both of those worlds and finding myself within them both. You know.
Sick. The balance is beautiful. For anyone that doesn't know what he's talking about, I do this thing called a writing exercise on Instagram, where I'll just put up a prompt on one of the stories and say, hey, what would you like me to write a song about? Or write a poem about. I do poetry sometimes too, because I just found it's easy. It's easier and more free-flowing, but it is really nice to be able to just publicly force myself outside of my comfort zone and also have a symbiotic like moment of co-creation, which is, I mean, you love playing in co-creation too, and I think that it adds presence. This is so beautiful in its energy in the room, and it's magic without any filter. I find it interesting that I was able to find a way to do that in a digital way. Because it's hard not for things to get diluted digitally.
I think,
you know?
I mean, this is one of the biggest challenges right now for all of us, like all of us together, is how do you transfer or transpose or translate that feeling of being in person and creating meaningful worlds and safe places for people in an online, really kind of strange, opaque online competitive world. I think you do it so well.
Thank you.
I think there are ways of cutting through it. But, I know I've started doing like dry January for social media, like no social media in January, and it's freaking awesome.
Nice.
So I haven't been online for like a month, and it just
nice.
it's so nice. I mean, I've like looked a little bit, but I haven't like posted and stuff.
Oh,
But,
he cheated. Damn.
I've only spent like 7 or 8 hours a day only just browsing. You know, I haven't been posting.
Yeah.
No, but the feeling of being in that world and sort of overtaken by, I know that feeling, that it's not a nice feeling. But I think, in terms of online things, like a solution like the one that you found it's just a very simple way for people to feel. It's like, hey, let me meet you somewhere.
Yeah.
Here's a place we can meet.
In the now. In the nowness.
Yeah, you're offering that to people. You say, hey, come into my place, and I'll come into the same place. And it's like being here, but when you can't be with someone in person, it's cool. And for me in 2020 and 2021, back in COVID days, that was one of the biggest challenges.
We don't talk about those days.
Yeah, no, we don't. But like, how do you find that connection when you can't be with people? And I think lots of artists found amazing ways of doing it, but it was also a really hard time for artists to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful that people like you are there doing that, because even in a small way, it's a very important way for people to say, hey, I'm a part of something. And I think that's what music can offer people too, is something to be part of and something to find themselves in, and also permission just to be whatever you need to be, and then to in turn make spaces for people to be a part of. And I think that's a magnificent responsibility and a joyous occasion all around.
It's nice. It's nice. It's there's so much importance on like community and co-collaboration that just adds so much magic to, I feel like, the world that we're in.
Yeah.
And but even when we're songwriting, as when I walk into the room as a songwriter, there's things I'll ask to like prompt and almost like accelerate the sense of intimacy, because I'm sure you've done it when you walk. Well, fuck, we did it when you walk into the room and it's the first time you're meeting.
We met on that day in Hermosa Beach. Yeah.
And chemistry is a beautiful thing, and it's great when it just is there.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't know, sometimes alcohol helps a little bit to the social lubrication.
Social lubrication.
You know, it just helps
That's
a little,
great.
but I don't drink as much as I used to, and it's just nice to be able to have like a prompt. So, for example, if I'm going into a room as a songwriter, and we'll speak a little bit, one of the questions that I ask the artist that I'm with is, when's the last time you cried? Because then I feel like it cuts through right away, and it provides an opportunity to make sure that whatever it is that we're making fundamentally has a piece of your truth.
Well, what it is it's what you said earlier. It's removing the layers of fear that you don't need, because you go, I've got to protect myself. I don't want to get hurt. I want to be me. I want to have a voice. Oh, I don't want to have too much of a voice. I want to,
And then can't hide from that question.
And then if you say like, hey man, we're here, then that's a real blessing. And there are many ways to get rid of the voices of fear. Alcohol being one.
Yeah, but obviously presence. You should use presence more than
obviously,
alcohol.
Obviously presence though. Obviously presence too. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just about finding a level of comfort. I think. And
yeah. But we were lucky when we went in.
We were lucky because it was beautiful and it worked. But for me, like going on stage, for example, I don't drink on the road at all. Not because I'm averse to it, just because I kind of don't. I'm not as interested in being on stage in any altered state than I am just being like
fully
boom.
yes.
Like I'm so awake to every detail of you, and it's so beautiful. But I think there are ways, like I couldn't. Yeah, there are all sorts of different ways of just finding the fearlessness, finding the space.
Yeah.
But we were lucky because we hit it off immediately, and it was like.
We did. It was nice. I agree with you though. I find that because my first sober show ever was 2019.
Yeah.
And I felt like at first it was very scary, and then the more I got used to it, the more that I found that I was like, oh, I can feel everything, and there's no. First off, there's confidence in feeling like you don't need the help of anything.
Yeah.
Because before I felt like I needed it just for the nerves, but to be able to be as present as possible and as open as possible, and my senses are like just
wide
awake.
open. And you're someone who feeds so much off of energy from other people too, and catching that vibe, and because you're so lucid on stage, the way you're just so, it's like you're always tuned into to what you feel, and there are some people, especially in the environments some of the environments that I learned music in, like in conservatoires and stuffy places like this, even though they're beautiful too. People make music from here, and in a sense, like there was a part of me that was brought up in that educational world with this being very excited about music, but then underlying all of that and shining through, cracking through all of that stuff was always here for me first, and so it's a nice thing to be in touch with both sides, because they're both beautiful and both very crucial. But
I'm learning that because I'm more here, but I'm learning to be more
Yeah.
educated when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah,
here
yeah.
and understanding the rules more.
yeah, both are beautiful, I think.
It's sick because when we made, well, my next question was going to be how, well, you kind of touched on it earlier of
Yeah.
how you decided that you wanted to work with me, and I was on that legendary list that he was talking about.
Texted it.
But when we made our song, we didn't have that much time because I ended up getting there a little late and we couldn't go mad
Yeah,
late.
it was a hectic afternoon.
It was a hectic afternoon, but I'm happy we got everything we needed to get done. But for the sake of speed, it's not like I was doing like a million takes. And so I remember doing, first of all, I've been a fan and I was a fan. So when we started talking, I was like, oh, fuck, of course. Like, yes, I'm super down. And I was a little nervous because I know how well educated you are with theory, and it's just beautiful. And I'm not. I'm just definitely not. And we didn't do a bunch of takes, so we had just a few to select from, and there was a mistake in one of the ones that I'd made, and you were chopping it up, and you were moving it. And this guy manually put in like the sense that it was off, and I was like, how the fuck did you do that? How did you just know? How did you just know? Which is foreign to me, and it's so beautiful that you have access to having that sort of just knowledge and awareness and conviction in how to do it, because he didn't even stutter. He was like, this many. And I was like, wow. And it was beautiful, and that's when we started talking about the words escaping me. Is this synesthesia and how you hear music, and then you explained to me that you hear certain things in fractions.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, I've retold that story so many times. I was like, it was crazy. He put in the decimals. It was so cool.
Wow.
But it was just, it's very impressive.
Oh,
I admire it very much. I wish I had that sort of knowledge to pull from.
thank you so much. I think when the study of making music, really the study is the study of living a life. It's the same study, but I always feel my most confident when I can, again, transpose something else I know in life into something musical. Like, it could be something very simple, like the feeling of explosion. That's just quite a binary, like, okay, great, you know. But something more subtle, like inevitability, or the difference between the relief of a return versus the relief of a departure. Like, in life we feel this stuff, and it's beautiful. I'm home. I'm out. Like, they're both relief, but learning how to take that, however you perceive that, it could be like a visual thing, it could be a spatial thing. For me, I see, like pitch, I see sometimes quite spatially. I wouldn't say like I go into a zone where I like see crazy stuff, but it's more like, or so like, if I go, right, it's like a G and a C, but if I go, you chop up the space into different amounts of distance, and if you think, right, I've been trained to think the piano is this many notes, you have to dissolve that idea and you be free, totally free. But the lucidity of that, the courage to try that, like I didn't know that when I was 15 or how to do that. I wasn't very interested in that back then, but I think I became interested in it. But the courage to give it a shot comes from your life. It doesn't come from your training. It doesn't come from sitting in a classroom and someone saying, hey man, do this microtonal thing. Because I went to school and people would say, I don't want to do that. That's so boring. You know, I don't want to sit and learn this language or do that. It just doesn't interest me. You know, I was kind of quite hard to educate in a sense because I was stubborn and open-minded at the same time.
It's a beautiful state to be.
It is. I think now I think of it as kind of a bit like the state of an artist. You know? But at that time, I just thought, why don't I fit in here? You know?
We just did it backstage.
Yeah.
When we were like, take a photo. We're
Yeah.
like, cool, and we're taking photos, and we're just, doing whatever, posing. And the guy, the photographer, great photographer, God bless him, was like, okay, let's try one with hands down. Both of us without a fucking beat, went. Isn't that crazy?
It's just beautiful.
That was
it's
so
beautiful.
funny.
But I think that the courage to, I say courage like it's this kind of like Trojan effort, but courage is a small thing in a sense, even though it can be deep. The courage to be kind of out or weird or flip the thing. Again, it comes from the way that you are as a person, and it's okay not to be like counterculture in every way. Sometimes the most counterculture you can be is present, you know, because everything's been like, don't be here, and it's like, no, what if I'm just here though? Yeah, what are you going to say to that, you know? But going back to the thing you were saying about ways to see music and stuff, I think that I'm really interested in the kind of emotional chemical reactions that happen when you combine things. Like say the feeling of like longing with a feeling of abundance. That's a very simple example. Like I'm longing for what is already all here. Like that is I know that state so well as a human. How do I describe that? How do you describe that with a chord? I could long upwards. I could long, but I could have abundant. I could long here. Yeah, long here. But that I could have my abundance here. What? Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong pedal. That's why. So I'm longing, but I could have there's like a thickness of abundance down here. Like I'm here. I'm a triad. I have a reality, but I also have a fourth, which is grounding me but pushing against me. There's like tension, release, distance, volume, pitch. Like these axes are so human. Like this axis from here to here, left to right, high to low, big to small, wide to narrow. Those are the simple axes, but then it's like certain to uncertain, or defined or undefined, or with humor or without humor. These things, it's like, how do you play something? How do you play something with humor? How do you play something without humor? You have to try stuff out and play. But I love the feeling of transposing my own unique experience of the world, and as everyone's is unique, to the process of being like, yeah, but how do I play that? Like, I remember I had a lesson once with a teacher I really admired, a guitarist, and he said, and I went and being like, hey man, I want to learn like the coolest chords in the world. What's the coolest chords in the world? And he said, well, play a chord that's your mother.
Wow.
And I thought, God, I don't know how to do that. Play a chord that's your mother. I don't know. And he said, no, you have to play it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what chord I played.
Susie, shout out.
Susie Collier, yeah.
Shout out Susie.
Shout out Susie.
Sweetheart.
But play a chord that is. Think about what happens here when you go there. It's like I'm here. Okay, I'm stable, and now I'm moving. But if say I'm here, can you sing that note? So be that whole note, be the whole of that note, and sing loud, sing loud. So, now you're fighting me. Now you're my relief. Now you're my sweetener. Keep singing. Now you're my spice. Or now you're like my anchor, deep down, deep anchor. Keep singing louder. But check this out. Right. That difference. Right. Two completely different worlds. This world, being a C in an A flat major chord, we all know the feeling. But then, being a C in an F major chord, that's so different, Or being a C in a D chord, that's both resolved and unresolved at the same time. And then the relief of being a C when that resolves itself. This is the stuff that I'm just like, yes, because it's so human and so beautiful. And you think about this, the feeling of F major chord, right? Can you sing an F major chord? This is F major. Very good. So, if I get to F major from here, right? It's like the sun has come out, yeah? Wow. But if I'm in D major, and then I go to F, it's like the sun's kind of gone in, Isn't that interesting? It's like peaking down. Oh, D, F. But if you're A flat, like F. You know what I mean? So it's all about context, and even the most simple of materials, like a triad, there's something so sound about arriving and departing from that triad. And I mean, this is such a departure from the question, but
no, but it's beautiful. It's content versus context.
Yeah, there you go. I would sit for hours. Say this is a C major chord. best chords. And I would just, when I was young, I would just sit here, exactly on this exact chair in Los Angeles, and I would add notes to this chord and see how they felt. So, can you sing a D? Ah, is a D.
He said tighten up.
Ah, sing the D. Now can you sing an F sharp? Yeah. Now sing an A. Now sing a B flat. Oh, it's so great. Thank you. I could do this all day, but the feeling of being a note in a chord, that's an interesting state to be, because it's like the audience choir. It's like you are within a state, you're affecting a state. It's like being a person. You are in an environment, and you being in that environment affects its gravity, you know. And one note can change the whole gravity, you know. Say, E major, and if I move this note to there, you started singing immediately. You started singing, and then he goes, "You wanted to go there," or whatever. And like, so the journey of that note. Yeah, you could just go on these journeys because. Oh, thank you. Yeah, one note. You move one note in a direction, make a line. You draw a line, and that line can take you. Like you felt it immediately. You were like, you started to sing because because you're tuned in to that. But that line can take your heart on a journey, and it feels mysterious. Like all these chords, I've never heard it, but it's so simple. It's so simple, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, or like. Yeah, it doesn't have to be these kinds of chords. Those are two of my favorite chords, but it doesn't have to be those. It can literally just be. You know, and again, this is what the audience choir has taught me. You can't get an audience. Well, actually, you can get an audience choir to sing this chord, but it's a long story. But it's hard for someone to get an audience choir to sing this chord. It's unlikely to happen. But if you got an audience choir to sing this, then all these motions, lines in between, motion becomes possible, and so a lot of it's really simple. And I wouldn't think of chords or melodies or rhythms as being in the distance. I would think of them as being inevitable. They're always there, and you just have to pull from them and find yourself within them, and then concentrate on the lines that you want to draw, because it doesn't matter what other people like. It matters what you like, and you're the guardian of your own taste, and no one else in the world has that responsibility other than you. You must show the world what you like and how you see things, if you want to, because that's why we're. I think that's why we're here, and I think that's why artists have such a beautiful weight that they carry. Because what an amazing way to spend a life, by seeing the world, letting the world come in, being as awake as possible to every gesture of the world and the axes of the emotions of the world, and then responding, you know? What a cool thing to do in your life.
To be able to express.
Yeah. And I would also say that if no one was listening to my weird music, I would still be making it, you know? Like, I'm not making it because I've got a audience and a big group of. I just must make it. I feel like you're the same. It's like I just must make it.
Yeah, no, a fish must swim.
Yeah, I'm so drawn to it as a force. I can't imagine not making it. It would make no sense. So, I would say there are things in your life that will show you parts of yourself, and follow the things that just turn you on. Honestly, like, oh yeah, it must be this. I must do this. I love this. And that could be music, it could be anything. And even within the music, there's so much it could be, but that's the most efficient use of your heart, you know, to spend time in there, because it's in that world that you grow the fastest and in turn teach the fastest, because you're so ravenous for it and you're thirsty for it. So, you know, for me, that's music, and the study of it and the explanation of it and the feeling of it and the experience of it and the guidance of it. That's what I live for, you know.
Beautiful. Can you show us how you would reharmonize Happy Birthday?
Yeah. Yeah? Yeah, I can. What key? Anyone? F sharp? C flat, E flat, A flat. Okay. Oh, there was like F sharp, E, there was F sharp, E flat, and A flat. So I'll do those three. Hey. Okay, well, is anyone's birthday here by any chance?
No
Your
queries?
sister's? What's her name? Elena? Helena. Andrea.
Happy birthday, Andrea.
It's your birthday, Andrea? It's your birthday? Oh, no, okay. So does anybody know anybody with... Oh, I know someone with a birthday today. Remy Wolf's birthday is today.
Oh, shout out Remy.
Hey, come on now. Okay, so maybe let's sing happy birthday to dear Remy. Yeah? And I can send her a video later. So we'll start in F sharp. So you need to sing, because I'm not going to do this by myself. And so we'll do 3 keys. We'll do F sharp, then E flat, then A flat, as requested. And I'll do them in increasing amounts of insanity harmonically. So we'll start like quite reasonable. I need to go pee, though. I really do. But I'll be right back. You can
do your thing. It's human.
Tell some stories.
Be human.
Tell some stories. I'll be right back.
I love it. Nice. Andrea, you're just going to diss your brother like that? And like, you could have followed on. You could have been like, yes, my birthday. How are you guys doing? This shit is crazy, eh? Bananas. I've told that story about the decibel fraction so many times because it was so crazy. I've never seen someone be able to do it that way without even like skipping a beat, you know? It was just like, oh, it's this, and fixed it, and it was beautiful. It was really lovely. Andrea, is it your birthday soon? It's in March. Oh, I see. He was just rounding up. I got it. It's bad luck if they sing happy birthday earlier. Oh, so you set a boundary. I love it. I love boundaries. I learned about boundaries this year. I learned that no is a full sentence, and I love it. I'm happy I didn't say no to this. I was very nervous, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys for the energy. Appreciate it. It's a gift. I'm doing great. Thank you. Oh, he's back.
Okay. Happy birthday in F sharp.
Happy birthday in F sharp to Remy and not Andrea.
No, I guess not.
Right.
Hey. Okay. So your first note is... Yeah, I've just found that out when I was in the toilet. This is so great.
Multitasking king.
Yeah.
Let's
I was
go.
like, wait, what if... Oh, it is. It's so great. Okay, everyone ready? So it's in 3. So 1, 2. That was so nice. Okay, now E flat. Yeah? What's your first note? What's your first note? That was a hard question, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll do slightly more spicy this time. You ready? 1, 2. Nice. Okay. Now, A flat, right? That's the last one. So that's your first note. And let's get bananas now. Let's go bonkers. Okay, ready? 1, 2. Beautiful. That was very nice. And one quick thing I'll say on that, because obviously that was fun for me, but when it comes to harmonizing a song like Happy Birthday, again, it's like going back to the first thing you said, it's like the song is so simple. Say you're in C. Right, so every one of the notes exists in C already. There's no like wacko departing notes. So when it comes to harmony, I'll try and make this as quick as I can. I'll do like a 3-minute how to harmonize lesson. So what's the first thing to do when you come at a tune and you want to harmonize it? Well, what are the main points of departure and arrival? How do you draw the biggest arc you can? So basically it's away, home, right? That's the first thing to ascertain. Home, away, home. That's the gesture. So I could actually kind of do, yeah, that's fine. And so ultimately, the goal is to make that more nuanced. But actually, it's fundamentally very, very simple. And so the thing about Happy Birthday is you're constantly hopping between home and away. That's kind of one of its essences. So, okay, oh, we're back. Okay, so that's the shape. Now, these 4 chords, C, F, and G, they make up like all of pop music, these 3 chords, or most of pop music. And that's beautiful. And so if you understand how to navigate these kinds of primary chords, then you're in for a treat, because you can play like every song ever. But even without adding like colorful notes to these chords, you can still have quite an impact. One example being like a pedal. Do you guys know what a pedal is? I don't mean like a pedal here, I mean like a musical harmonic pedal. A pedal is like a note that is sustained throughout our changing chord sequence. So if I have a G pedal, it's so brooding, isn't it? Has a sense of like, okay, strident, oh, okay, yeah, but we're not quite home though, but we're kind of here though, you know? Does that make sense? If I did, this C pedal, that's our home. But doing one that's away creates a different feeling. Or if I did, yeah, I think otherwise I'll go forever. So a pedal is like one example of things you can do. You can also rearrange the notes and chords. So that's C, and that's G, and that's G, and that's C, and F, and C. So even just by, in music we call these things inversions. If you put C in a different inversion, it means that you change the order of the notes, and rather than having C at the bottom, you have E at the bottom, which is the third. And it's a sweeter version of it, right? It's not like, it's like, we are C, but we're not, we're kind of just like perching. Or G is one of my favorites. It's kind of like, we are home, but we're not home though. It's like, we will be home. Yeah? So anyway, if I only use inversions. You're kind of like, you know? Yeah? And so you have so much power as a harmonist to tell stories. And obviously, you can add notes as well. Like I say, I want to sweeten the C chord with like a D. If I sweeten all the chords with one extra note, that's my sweetening note. Inversion. That's another trick about dominant chords, which is you describe them as seventh chords, like a chord that wants to resolve. Right? Dominant chord, all it actually means is tension release. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to play dominant chord, you can play this. It literally doesn't make any difference. If I do, it's the same, kind of the same function. It doesn't matter, you can do whatever you want. Or you can be very choiceful. Like, that chord doesn't exist in textbooks because it's not allowed. You can't have a B major triad over a G7 chord, or can you? Yes, you can. And so, a lot of being a harmonist is you find colors you like. That's such an interesting color, isn't it? Because this wants to pull apart. Like, you ever have those days where it's just like, you know? sour. But in control, though. Yeah. So it's just about being in touch with that thing, the feeling of being a person as a harmonist, and then controlling the inversions, the shapes, the notes that you add, and even really simple things like just range. I'm using really high notes. They're such a simple thing, but it makes such an impact, you know. You don't have to do crazy, wacko jazz voicings to be meaningful. You just need to use your whole material set, and the same as being a person. I'm going to stop, otherwise I'll keep going forever. But
That was great. It was three solid minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nice. It's like watching a very insightful YouTube video, like ×2.
Yeah.
×2 speed. I love it. We have some students in the audience that have some questions. Can y'all put your hand up so I know where you are? Hey. Do you guys want to... Who's got the first question? Hi. Can you state your name and your major?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick, and I am a senior at Belmont University. And what I really want to know from you guys is what types of skills should young creatives develop in order to cut through all the competition in the music industry?
Oh,
you want to go first?
Take it first? Sure. Well, we touched on it already. At the risk of sounding redundant, I'm going to say it again. Kill your fear. Like, it's so useless. And you just have such a one-up when you actually just jump. Because so many people, unfortunately, live this life driving from a place of fear, and they're just stuck in the audience or they're stuck on the bleachers. And it's so much easier to hate from there because you're not the one that's sticking your neck out. And if it's any sort of like soulless to anybody, I hope that you hold on to that anyone that's judging you or throwing rocks at you or whatever, it's real easy to judge when you're not the one jumping. But if you're the one jumping, you already have that win, you know? You already have that win above anybody else that wants to judge you from the bleachers or from the audience or from wherever. Also, learning to criticize or learning to critique yourself objectively is something that's imperative to actually growing, because like we said, like there's something to be said about setting these like high goals for yourself and dreaming big and saying fuck the rules. If someone says this chord's not right or this idea is too big, just go with your gut and try things outside of your comfort zone and aim high, but also make sure that you're applying balance. And aiming high is great, but if you have somewhere where you're just not as developed or something that you're not as great at, you should be aware of it for two reasons. A, you either focus and apply those criticisms and improve so that you have a greater chance of achieving whatever success you have in front of, or whatever success you're hoping for. Or if you want to build something bigger and you're cultivating a team, it's important to know what your weaknesses are so that you know what kind of generals you need. For example, myself, I'm more introverted than I am extroverted. I'm not too gung-ho on parties and networking and stuff, but I'm also very aware of how beneficial it is, especially in this industry of like, well, you know, because people are going to want to work with you also if they fuck with you, you know, and if you're cool and if you're vibes and it's lit. But sometimes that starts with like linking up first and meeting someone first. And sometimes those are at events. And as an introvert, it's just not, I just don't really like it.
I can relate to the introvert
Dude,
thing. Yeah.
And it helps. And shoot, if you can relate, I'm sure you have people on your team that are friendly as shit. I'm lucky I have people on my team that are friendly as shit that can go and kind of advocate and make the connections that I might not be able to make that day because my social meter is maxed out and I just need to replenish my energy by myself in my room with my guitar with nobody else, you know? So that helps.
Yeah.
Killing fear, understanding that you need to fail faster in order to move forward, and making sure that the voice in your head is on your side, and just don't be scared of no's from the outside. Because the more no's you get, the closer you are to the yes, you know? And grit goes such a long way, not just for what you're achieving on your own, but also for perception. Because when you're cultivating that team, if you're showing that grit and you're showing how hungry you are and you're showing your level of work ethic, anybody around you is either going to measure up or excuse themselves. Because people show themselves, people tell on themselves, you know? You don't want someone on your team that you're dragging along. You want just a team full of, like, monsters. And if you're leading the way, you know, if you're showing that grit, then I think the universe responds and puts those kinds of people around you in order to grow and in order to build what it is that you're hoping to build.
Beautifully put.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would say what skills do you need as an artist in this world? I would say don't try to be cool, because you'll be cool when you're dead. Be warm, be warm, and find the warm people, because that's what the world needs at the moment. Gentleness and warmth, and precision. But I think one question might be fun to ask is like, what would you do if you already knew what to do? And I often ask myself that question in creative dilemmas. I think, God, I could do this or this and this. If I already knew what to do, what would I be doing? And you can apply that to big equations and small equations too. But it kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning about knowing what you like. And again, you don't have to decide what you like because you already like it. It's effortless. It's easy. You don't have to you don't have to make a list of everything you like and put it on the notice board. You just need to be aware of things that you freaking love. I love it. I love it so much. I'll do that, you know? And I think there's a myth about if you make yourself too big, then there's less space for others. It's not true. The bigger and more comfortable you feel, the bigger everybody else feels around you. And I really, really believe that. And I think that when it comes to kind of undershining in certain situations, which I definitely know the feeling of, especially within education, of saying, oh, I don't know if I'm really worthy of being here, or, oh, gosh, this is the Grammys, oh, I don't know about this, I'm just me, you know. That is something everybody feels. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling that at all, and it's kind of crucial to make space for yourself to be who you are in that situation, but everybody's a fraud in the whole wide world, you know. No one knows what they're doing.
No one.
No one knows what's going on. No one knows what their future is going to be. And no one knows what the next best move is. So I would say rather than trying to compete, you just make as much space as you can for who you are. And if you make that space for yourself, then the world will have to make space for you.
Bars. I love that. It's so beautiful to like just reiterate that, you know, like you have to just make space for yourself. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. I'm Elisa. I'm from Latvia, but now I'm currently studying in LA College of Music in vocal major.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and
Hey.
and my question will be, so how do you begin writing a song? Is there some specific routine, or does it change every time? And is there anything specific that inspires you?
Wow. Well, I guess I would say that, it's such a big question. Writing not from your own perspective can be helpful. I think I used to think that songwriting was like monologuing, like you're like, I feel this and this, thank you for coming, you know. But actually, that's not really what it is. Songwriting it's an opportunity to present a perspective, and whilst your own perspective is kind of ultimate because you're you, it's also can be really fun and freeing to write from other people's perspectives. So when I think about lyrics, I often think about that, and it can be helpful also with lyrics to visualize two characters. There's another thing I think about a lot, because again, if you're one character, what are you dancing with? You know, you're just being on. It's like, oh, I'm just me, you know. But if at the moment there's another person, it doesn't have to be a duet. It doesn't have to be a love song. It could be the idea of the other. It's so good. It's such a solid and universal idea. You know, it could be you and a younger version of yourself, or it could be someone that you've never met and another person that you've never met, or it could be, you know, brother and sister. That's such a nice dynamic to write from, brother and sister. You know, I've got two sisters, and I learned so much of the world from watching through their eyes too. So it's just like, how do you embody the people whose perspectives you most admire, and also whose perspectives you most fear? Because I think we're also in a world where if someone has a perspective that's different from your own, there's a tendency to sort of push away, or even like, you know, unvalidate or devalidate their perspective. You know, people, for example, whose political leanings are different from my own, I may have a tendency to think, well, these people just don't know the truth. I'm the truth, you know, I'm me, I know everything. But I think that, what would it be like to really embody the perspective of somebody who you don't agree with? How would they see the world? What kinds of things would they be excited about? You know, or you know, the villain in a story. You know, how fascinating to be doing something. You could say doing something bad. That's interesting. That's more interesting than like being well behaved and like running a song and it's all nice. You know what I mean? It's like, I would definitely say embrace the weirdness of your own perspective and other people's perspectives, and I think in songwriting that makes more, it's just more interesting. Like, also being right is not very interesting, you know? So don't try and be right when you're writing your songs. Oh, I'm going to write a good song, it's going to be great. You know, it's like, what song would you write if you did the opposite of everything that you thought was good? Because good is made up, and also it's always changing, and it's very like subjective. The idea of something is good. You know, I think I might think something's great, and you might think it's absolute trash. You know, and that's one of the wonders of the world. So embrace that, go with it, push into the crumbly, strange, dark corners of your own imagination, and tell stories from those places, because I think those are the places that the world needs to feel cool about. You know, the world doesn't necessarily need to feel cool about looking really great and being in love or something. I mean, you know, I feel like, I mean, those things are both great, but I feel like if you can give someone permission as an artist to feel something that they're feeling, that could be quite a complex feeling. They might feel quite alone in that. But if you offer a perspective, hey, this is a way of seeing something. Ultimately, that's one of the greatest services you can give to someone as an artist, is to say, hey, you could look at it like this. And that gives courage, and it's fun. It's really fun, too. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
How's it going? Nice to meet you both. I'm such a big fan. My name is Danny. I'm a third-year junior at California Institute of the Arts, studying musical arts and experimental pop.
Nice.
And my question today would be for you, or for you both, would be, how would you recommend the undiscovered artists to go about promoting themselves?
You want me to take it?
Yeah, you take it.
Okay.
You go first.
There's something in your brain that leads more towards familiarity sometimes, and I think it's just important to don't go against the grain when it comes to trying to get your name out there. And that being said, sometimes covers are really beneficial. For example, if you're a producer or a singer or whatever, but if you can remake something that someone's already done, that can kind of trigger that familiarity in your audience's brain. It helps retain someone within your community or within the community that you're trying to build. Also, like things that I did, apart from doing covers, I would tag the musician, like whose music I was covering, but also I was aware that it's difficult to cut through those notifications, because usually those musicians have just plethorous amounts of things on their phone. So I would figure out who their management was on Google, and then I would tag the manager. And then I'd go on Twitter and like go to their following list and go to the very bottom, because usually at the bottom is either their agent or their lawyer or just someone that's closer to the circle. Yeah, and then I would tag them. I was doing everything to try to get my name out there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Wow. I was even doing clickbait, which is crazy. But I was doing covers of The Weeknd, and then when I posted it on Twitter, I was like, The Weeknd kissing stripper, because I thought it was genius. But what's wild is that it ended up, it's crazy, because I had a friend back home, Jive, who's an amazing musician, and this was around the time that I was posting those covers, and he put me in contact with this great guy named Stuntman, who connected me with Doc McKinney. And at the time, was an amazing producer. And at the time, The Weeknd was taking off, so the man was busy. But made time for me to come to the studio. I introduced myself, and he was like, I know you. And I was like, you do? And he was like, yeah, Elangelo, who was another producer on their team, saw your fucking post, your clickbait post, which was jokes, but the video was lit, and then they took in my stuff. Now, I don't, that little connection of like, haha, this person, that person, like, it just helped build rapport. And I think that also goes for anytime that you're invited to, like, or anytime you have the opportunity to go to some sort of like workshop or some sort of event or speaking engagement, whatever it is, even if you go and you don't get to, so suppose you have like a list of people that you're like, well, this person's gonna be there, I'd love to introduce myself, this person, whatever. You have this like ideal list, and you don't get to network to the extent that you wanted to. Don't take the L. Understand that even eye contact goes such a long way, because now the next time that you go to the event, make eye contact again with whoever it is. If you don't have, ideally you want someone to introduce you, because that helps a lot. If you have a bridge, especially if the person that's introducing you is already close with who you want to link with, really, 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 really helps. But if you don't, the eye contact goes a long way, because the third time that you go to an event and you make eye contact, all of a sudden the person's like, oh, Don't I know you? Oh, you were at this event, and now you have an in. Now you have a bridge. Now you can, like, get to know somebody and spark that connection. But not being afraid of making your presence known online and be creative with how you're linking up with people. Don't be afraid of sending a DM, but also I feel like my theme today is balance, because you also don't be the one that's sending like 100 DMs. Just take that effort of the 100, and instead of going vertical, go horizontal and move on to someone else. Move on to someone else and don't be afraid of the no's.
That's beautiful. Yep. I would. It's super cool to hear you talk like that, because it's so different from how I did it.
Really,
and I think that's one of the cool things about like us two answering this question, because for me, I don't like networking very much, and I've never really done very much of it, and I don't think I'm very good at it. It's crazy how much you hounded, and it's beautiful, because you were talking about grit before. It's like the grit. It's like you've driven yourself to a point. I think for me, the way I thought was kind of, don't make anything that anyone else would ever make. Only ever make things that only you can make. Which again, it's not the only way, because exactly as you say, it's like if you make things that other people know, then they can meet you there. So there's always a balance. But if I think about like pure Jacobness of like age 14, it's like if someone had done it before, I wouldn't do it. And it wasn't a choice. I just wasn't turned on by it. So I would seek to do something. It's like, what would you do if? What's something only you can say? What's something only you can do? And it's the easiest way to be singular, in a sense, is just to be totally yourself. And you could say it's a very simple, maybe it's like an unhelpfully simple thing to say, but you are massive. Like your whole taste is massive. Your skill set is massive. Your perspective is massive. So if you're able to crack that, I mean, I would say don't conform to anybody else's ideas at all when you're building a language. And once you've built a language, I think that's the moment when you start to say, kind of as you're saying, like, okay, well, how can I create like an intersection between my world and your world? And you say, okay, your world is filled with like this kind of music and this kind of music. Well, what do I like on the radio right now? What do I actually like on the radio right now? Or what do I like in this playlist or this world? And who do I respect? And for me, I think a huge way I built my audience was by collaborating with people. I think within my room, my first album in my room, I created that, and it was like such a Jacoby thing to do, It's like the ultimate Jacob thing. And I'm so glad I started doing that, because if I'd started doing the collaboration, I would have just been, because I'm like an open, sensitive, kind of awake, creative person, I think I would have been like quite easily just swept up in the winds of everything, and my confidence with it, But I think within my room, one of the reasons I was so pulled to do it was because it was just me. It was like, this is my world, and no one else is going to make this album, so I've got to make it. And if people don't like it, I don't mind. That's cool. Because I know once I've made this album, I'm going to have the skills I need to make the next album. And it was true, and I did. I didn't know how, but then I think a huge way I built my audience was, make a list of all your heroes and hang out with them and learn from them and meet them. Because if you learn from people you respect by making stuff, it's always better than learning just by listening to their words. If you can get in a space, it doesn't have to be crazy famous people. It can just be your best mate. Like when I was at school, my really dear friend Misha he was really good at sort of production and logic and that kind of stuff. And I would sit with Misha and just work with him, and that's how you get to know yourself, And I think that's a really important thing. But then I made this list of collaborators, including this legend here. And obviously, every time you collaborate with a person, you are reaching a portion of their audience, which is a really cool thing to do. But I felt really strongly about what I'm bringing to that equation is purely just completely Jacob, And so I would say I didn't even think about having a career till I was like 21, and that was after I'd made an album. It was like, oh, I just want to make an album because I just have to make the most beautiful music ever. And I spent all of my time thinking about that, and I didn't spend any of my time thinking about the music industry at all. But I did think about how I felt about the thing I was making, and I also was quite attention to detail, sort of oriented about presentation, just partly because I love sort of symmetry and organizing grid systems and things. So I made these YouTube videos, and again, covers actually. It's like such a simple thing. I covered a bunch of people's songs, and gradually you find your way to your people. And I edited these videos. It was kind of like quarantine, but early. I sort of did lots of different Jacobs and had them all playing instruments. And the kick I got out of that was how cool is the thing I'm making? Like, not cool, sorry. Like, how fulfilling, how magical, how beautiful is this thing? Does it feel like me? Does it really feel like me? Because if it doesn't feel like me, then someone else can say it, and that's cool. But I love the feeling of just finding your language. You're in a world, and you make a language for your own world. Once you've got that language, it's like you were saying earlier on about you can learn in public. Like you present yourself in public, and I think I felt like I built myself a world first, and I understood its forces. And second, I took it and combined it with other people's worlds, and found myself on the edge of an industry. And then it was interesting because I was nominated for Album of the Year 2 years ago, and that was a very big surprise for me because. Again, I would never consider myself as being that person, but it was a fascinating thing because I was taken from my own world and kind of put in the center of an operation as though I represented something, which is fascinating and such a privilege, but it was definitely challenging for me creatively because I thought, well, now I was making sort of poppy songs almost ironically, and now I'm supposed to be making pop music. Like, is this my job now? I got, and 2021 was kind of strange creatively for me because I was so kind of spread out. And all these different people had different expectations of, oh God, if I was Jacob, I would do this. Or Jacob could work this way, or this, or this. Or God, with your mind, like you could do this and that. And I had to kind of just ignore it and go back to the room and be like, but why did I do this first? Oh yeah, because I wanted to build a language for my world. Because I just love it. Because I want to make the most brazen, beautiful, magnificent stuff ever with no ceiling to the number of people I want to reach either. That's important to say. But I think for me, I get stressed out when I start thinking, oh God, I need to meet this person or do this or network or do this kind of stuff. But thank God there are people in the world who do have those skills because kind of as you were saying, you want a team with that kind of tenacity so that you don't have to necessarily do things that you don't like doing. And if you like doing them, do them. Like your ability to do that must, in a sense, come from your, like, there's part of your mind that's like, that you get a kick out of it. Like, do you know what, I'm going to get this. I'm going to meet you. I'm going to do this thing.
The drive.
The drive.
Yeah.
If you feel pulled by that drive in any direction, I would say you take it. But there's no rush. There's definitely no rush. It being a rush is a story. Sometimes it takes 10 years to get the thing you want, or 20 years to get the thing you want. Sometimes it could be next week. But as long as you're awake to the world, you know what you like, and you're making as much as you possibly can, I think you'll be fine. And you can be creative with every aspect of it. You can be creative with your marketing and your video editing and your live show and your production. And again, it's like, what would you do if you already knew the answer? You kind of do that. The moment I sit and think about things, I lose the momentum. So I would say, just kind of, you're only ever where you are now. So start the journey there and follow those goosebumps, and you'll end up in a cool place.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Andrew. I'm in my second year at USC as a music industry major. And my question is for Jacob. Could you talk about your production process in creating Good Days with SZA, and what do you think helped the song do so well?
Wow. So Good Days is a song by SZA. And SZA sent me a demo of this beautiful song in 2020, I think it was in the middle of 2020. And I don't know how she found me. I don't know how she found me, but it was incredible that she did. And she said, hey, I'd just love you to add some chords, like some vocal harmony stuff to this. And the interesting thing about that song is a little bit how I see you write sometimes, and I love it. It's like stream of consciousness. It's like there's not really a rhyme structure or a verse or a chorus. It just kind of, it's like, I think this and this and this and this and there's this and there's this and there's this. And then she gets to the end of the song and that's the end. I think it's beautiful, and I think the reason it cut through is because it wasn't trying to compete with anything else. It was just very, very itself. And somehow, I mean, I think there's always luck in success, but it kind of encapsulated the essence of how a lot of people were feeling. It came out on Christmas Day, I think, 2020, Christmas Day. No one releases music on Christmas Day. And she was like, I'll put it on Christmas Day. And actually, it was interesting because it then ruled all the playlists, because nothing else was going to come out other than like Michael Bublé's Christmas album, which I love. But it was just the whole thing was alternative. The whole song was wacko. Didn't really have a structure. Came out on Christmas Day. And yeah, I just there was this bit in the chorus. It was like, Still wanna try, still believe in. And I was like, oh, good days, you know, because the song was called Good Days, I think. Good days, always in my mind, always in my mind, man. And it took me 20 minutes, and I sent it back to her in a text, and I thought, oh, that was fun. And what an honor to hear an unreleased song before it comes out. That's cool. But I didn't even know she'd release it, let alone like it be so, it's single, you know, and do so well. And yeah, when it came out, she said, hey, I'm going to drop the song. I thought, oh, that's crazy. And she asked me to send her a little video of me singing Always in My Mind to put in the music video, which you have to look very, very closely, but you can see me in there. Yeah, it was a very simple thing I didn't think very much about. And I was so blown away at the response. I think the song has over 600 million streams on Spotify now. That's really crazy. And I don't know what it is about the song, but for me, I think it's the way the way it feels is what. Like the moment it starts, it's like a world. So she's made a world. And I think about making worlds all the time. That's what I do. And so I responded to the world that she made for me. And that was what gave me the idea to do the song. And she wasn't writing a song to kind of like, just didn't feel competitive to me. And she can compete, and she does compete. You know, like Kill Bill right now is like ruling, right? And that's a competitive song. But it's a banger. Like, it's a banger. Good Days feels like, it's like a lucid dream. It's like, oh, am I writing a song, or am I just like asleep? I don't really know. You know? And so I kind of found myself in that world. And whenever I contribute or collaborate with someone, I never really think too much about around the song and you know, what that song's gonna do or mean for lots of people. I think I just kind of see it, I feel it as I feel it. Like, how do I respond to this song? What can I bring to it that's my own? And I did that with that song. And again, you never know like what's going to come back, but yeah, that was wild. I'm very, very honored to be a part of it. So yeah.
Alrighty, so that was our last question for the Q&A, but I just wanted to say on behalf of all of us, especially as college students, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. It's super inspiring just to be in this room and be around you guys and hear your stories. It's been amazing, so thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you guys for the lovely questions. Thank you, Jacob. You killed it. It's an honor to just learn so much. I feel like I'm pretty much sitting where you guys are sitting this whole time. I'm like, wow, so interesting. Thank you to everybody who made time. Thank you to everybody on the live stream. Thank you to Mastercard and to Grammy U, everybody for watching. And make sure that you guys turn into the Grammy Awards on February 5th on CBS. Have a great day, guys. Thank you.